In the last two sessions, we discussed about what is the meaning of Oracle Fusion Financials applications. We discussed what does it mean by Fusion and on-premise and cloud. And also we discussed about different cloud options available like SaaS, PaaS, IaaS. And we discussed the landscape of instance as a part of implementation. Typically, what are the instances we use? We use test and production as a primary. If required, we use development instance also. So these are the points we discussed. Now, so if you want to access to the instance, we need user. Okay, we need user. Let's talk about user. Every instance what we get from Oracle, there will be one default user. The username would be FA admin. Okay, FA admin is the default user in every instance. So earlier in the previous releases, now we are standing at release 13. This is the latest release. We'll discuss more detail level once we get into the instance. So in release 13, you don't get access to FA admin. Prior to that, I could say up to release 9, we were able to access to FA admin user. After release 9 means from release 10 onwards, Oracle stopped giving access to FA admin. So what we have to do is Oracle will create one user for us, and with that you have to log into the instance and you have to create your own user. That's how you have to start working on the instance. But always there is a user called as FA admin in every instance, but those we cannot access. So Oracle is setting the restriction. If somebody is going to change the password for FA admin, even Oracle cannot access from front end directly. That is the reason they are just restricting the access to FA admin. But there is a default user called as FA admin, we cannot access. When we are part of implementation project, when you are part of implementation project, we'll get access to specific user. So you may get access to user called as, say for example, fin.impl. So Oracle will create the username for instance that they will share to the client team. The client will share that user maybe to our manager or directly to us. With that user, you have to log into the instance and you have to create your own user. And to work as a consultant, what are the permissions we require? Those all permissions we have to set for your user. How to set? What are the permissions we require? How it works, we'll see. So you are going to work as a consultant. You have to create your own user. So since you are going to work for financials, you may create a user called as fin.impl, or else it could be like IMPL user, which can be used by all the consultants. Okay, it depends. Like you can create one user and you can start working on the test instance. That user can be shared by all the other consultants, finance consultant, SCM, HCM, PPM, or else you can create separate users for each consultant. Finance one user, SCM another user. This is how you can create. If you have a separate users, it would be easy for us who is doing what. Any setup you do in the system will track that setups are performed by which user. So two ways, two options we follow. Like in some projects, we create one user, everybody will be using the same user for the initial configuration within the system. In some implementations, each area of the consultant, finance consultant will have one user, SCM will have a different, HCM, PPM will have a separate users. It doesn't matter how many users we are creating, ultimately we need the user. Say you created one user called as FinIMPL. Now, to work as a consultant, which roles we have to assign? Okay. So within the Fusion environment, if you want to access to anything, within the instance, we need access to roles. We need access to roles. So Oracle is providing the roles. Whatever you want to access within the Fusion environment, Oracle is providing the roles. The roles, whatever Oracle is providing, those we call as seeded roles. Seeded roles. Seeded roles means the roles which are delivered by Oracle, the roles which Oracle is providing, those roles we call as seeded roles. Apart from what Oracle is providing, we can create our own roles also. We can create our own roles. If you are going to create few roles based on the business requirement, those roles we call as custom roles. Okay, custom roles. You can create the new roles. Those we call as custom roles. Whatever Oracle is providing, those roles we call as seeded roles. Okay, going forward, we'll see how to create the custom roles also. Okay, going forward, we'll see how to create the custom roles. Seeded roles means the roles which Oracle is providing. Custom roles means whatever the new roles we create as per the business requirement, those we call as custom roles. Now, so if you are going to work as a consultant, which roles we require? You are creating a user called as say fin IMPL, fin.impl. Now, which roles we have to assign? We have to assign the role called as application implementation consultant. We have to assign application implementation consultant role. Why we have to assign application implementation consultant role? This application implementation consultant role will allow us to perform the setups. Will allow us to perform the setups. If you assign application implementation consultant role to any user, that user will be able to perform the setups. That user can do the payable setups, receivable setups, GL setups. Any application related setups can be performed by the user, which user got access to role called as application implementation consultant. When we assign application implementation consultant role to any user, that user will get access to the environment called as FSM. Okay, FSM. So FSM stands for Functional Setup Manager. FSM stands for Functional Setup Manager. Within the Functional Setup Manager, you can perform the setup. The same point we discussed earlier also. So when we talk about different applications which we are going to deal, there if you want to perform any setups, we use FSM, Functional Setup Manager. With the help of Functional Setup Manager, you can do the setups, or you can say we do the configuration. In other words, you can say we do the implementation system within the system. So if you want to get access to FSM, Functional Setup Manager, you have to assign the role to user. The role name is Application Implementation Consultant. Application Implementation Consultant. Which user will get access to Application Implementation Consultant? That user will get access to FSM. FSM stands for Functional Setup Manager. Like from Functional Setup Manager, that user will be able to perform the setup. Any application related setups can be performed. So any questions here, please?
So how many users are we gonna create, sir?
When we are doing the implementation, how many consultants are working on the project, those many users we create. Once implementation is done, or else during the implementation, how many employees are going to work on the Fusion applications from the client side, those many users we have to create. Now we are not talking about client related employees related users. We are talking about the consultants who are going to implement the Fusion applications. Okay, two type of users. One is user we need as a consultant. Other users for employees who are working for the client. Okay, maybe 10 consultants are going to work on the implementation. Then you create 10 users. From the client side, there may be 1,000 employees who are going to work on this fusion application. Means they are going to create invoices, they are going to make the payment, they are going to work on the purchasing process, sales process, receivables, different application. The headcount could be 1,000. So we'll create 1,000 employees in the system as well as users. That's a different, that we call as employee users. Okay, you may create 1,000 employee users, since 1,000 employees or 1,000 accountants, they are going to work on the system. Now we are not talking about that employee users, that will come later. Now we are talking about when we are implementing fusion applications for any client, we need access to the instance. We, in the sense, we are consultants. So we are talking about consultant user, not employee related user. Okay.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other questions here, please?
Yes, so while creating this FSM setups, do this pass come into picture because we are doing setup changes.
Can you come again? What, when we are doing the setups by using FSM?
Will the pass come into picture? You said that IS pass
You
that.
don't see impact anywhere. See, pass will allow you to develop something what you require. That should be done by technical consultant. As a functional consultant, when we are doing the setup, it could be SaaS or PaaS. Whatever the application Oracle is offering, you will be able to see any application setups you can do. Okay. It won't come in the picture of doing the setups, whether if it is a PaaS. It would be same for us, for functional consultant.
Okay, my next question is that can we use the word instance as application? Application.
Instance is different, application is different. Okay, within the instance, you will have a multiple applications.
Okay.
Instance is the total environment. Okay, total environment. Like,
Okay.
yeah. So total environment. Within that instance, you'll have a multiple product families: finance, SCM, HCM, PPM. Within that, each and every product family, you will have a specific application. You take example, payables, receivables, general ledger, cash management, fixed assets, expense, tax. This all comes under financials product family. Product family. Within that product family, we have a different application. Like that, we have many product families, where we have all these product families within the instance. Yep. The complete environment we are calling as instance. Any other questions here?
So, as a financial consultant, you just said it's our duty to create users. Like, how many consultants are there? Those many users we gotta create, or is it anybody else's responsibility, sir?
No. When we work on the implementation project, when we act as a consultant, initially we'll get login credentials to the instance. You can log into that instance with the same credentials. You create separate user and you can start working on it. Okay, nobody is going to decide. It is just a team. Like, as a team, we will make a plan. Say we are total 10 consultants for the entire implementation. Always we'll connect for meetings and all. We'll make a plan. Okay, we'll create one user across the board. We use the same user. Or else you can say, hey, every kind of product family, let's have a separate user, so that who is doing what setup, system also will track. That's how you can make a plan. It could be one user or multiple users. Yes, you can create and you can keep going. It doesn't make any big difference. If you have a separate users for finance, SCM and PPM, if say one setup is completed, we don't know who completed. By checking history, you will be able to track from which user the setup has been completed. So that's how you will be able to track if you have a separate users for each and every product families. Otherwise, you can have a separate user. Nobody is going to decide. We will decide whether one user or multiple users. It doesn't make any difference. So going forward, anyway, we have to create the multiple users for the business users. Now we are acting as a consultant. One user is okay, or else for each consultant, separate user also okay. So when we are working in the projects, what will happen is some projects we create one user, will everybody will start doing the setup, or else in some projects we'll have a separate user like fin IMPL, fin SCM, fin PPM. Sorry, fin IMPL, SCM IMPL, maybe PPM IMPL. This is how you can have a username, or else you can go with a separate naming convention also. In some projects, what client will do is client will provide the login credentials to us with our email ID. Okay, with our
Okay.
email ID. So they will provide the login credentials with that username, with our email ID. We have to log into the instance. Okay, it is not like one way. It can be with any approach. You may have a single user, every consultant will log into the instance with the same, they'll be doing their respective configurations, or else every product related family, you can have a separate username, you can start working, or else so you will get access to instance with your email ID. Then with your email ID, you will log in, you will start working on the instance. It can be any approach. Okay. So this is what we have to understand.
Uh, yeah, okay, sir, understood. So in that case, like the first scenario which we have discussed, so if there is only one user and we are altogether many consultants using the same, if at all there is something wrong has happened, how to keep track of it? Like
That's what, that is
how
the
does
reason only. If you think so, okay, then you can go with the separate users.
yeah, got it, got it. Thank you. Thanks
That
for
we have to take
clarification.
decision. That's what we discussed. Okay, that's
Okay.
our call. Okay, as a team, our call. The same points. Some if somebody says if you create like that, if something do some activity like how to trace, not possible. It may be mistake, may not be mistake. Somebody did some setup. Username is same. How to track? That is the reason you may create that each and every product family is separate users, or else you can have a separate user for each and every consultant, maybe with their email ID.
Got it. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions here, please?
Yeah, Lakshman. So just a business process question from a business perspective. So when we work on the project, right, we do the setups, we do the implementation and hand over the project to the client.
Yes.
So then, when their employees are working on it, will they be creating the invoices in a similar way like we do on in Oracle, or like do they have a separate UI because they wouldn't be functional experts, right?
Correct. See, as a consultant, we do the setups and we'll help them how to create invoices, how to make the payment. Then the business users will come into the picture. The business users who are working for payables department, whose responsibility is invoice creation. So that team will start creating the invoices. Okay. So even we, whatever we access, same they will access. But the difference is the employee users or business users, or you call as end users, or call them as a power users also. Okay. Employee users or business users or end users or
So they
power
would be
users.
using the
One
same
second, one second,
application. Right?
one
Okay.
second. Power users, all are same. Like when you say power users, senior accountants in the company, senior accountants who are working for payables, receivables departments, who got good amount of experience with that process, we call them as a power users, whose responsibility is just entering invoices. They don't have a great experience, so who doesn't know the complete business process, we call them as end users or business, or like just anyone you can call with this name, but we differentiate end users and power users. End users who has a less experience and in terms of working with the system, and power users more experience. These are all related to business. What these all guys will be doing, they'll be entering the transactions only. As a consultant, we can do the setups and we will have access to create invoice and payments, but we don't create. We will help them how to create. As a business users or end users or power users, these all users will have access to only transaction entry privileges. they don't do any setups. So setup should be done by consultants. The process related activities should be taken care by end users or business users. This is what we have to understand. Now, any other questions on the same point, please? Okay, no questions. Okay. Going forward, we'll understand. We'll be creating the employee users. There you can differentiate how this consultant user is different from end users. So consultant user will have a full access. Employee user will have a limited access. Employee user need access to create the transactions. Implementation user need access to create the transactions as well as to perform the setups in both areas. So we need access to application implementation consultant role so that we can have access to FSM, functional setup manager. So when you get access to functional setup manager, we'll be able to perform the setups. So along with the application implementation consultant role, we need access to another role called as IT security manager. Just make a note. As an implementation consultant, any implementation consultant, I'm not talking about only finance implementation consultant. It could be finance or SCM or HCM or PPM. Any implementation consultant need access to these two roles. One is application implementation consultant to perform the setup. The second role is IT security manager role. With the help of IT security manager role, you can manage the security. Okay, you can manage the security. So if you assign IT security manager role to any user, that user will get access to environment called as security console. That user will get access to security console. If you assign application implementation consultant role to any user, that user will get access to FSM. From FSM, that user will be able to perform the setups. If you assign IT security manager role to any user, that user will get access to security console. From security console, what that user can do? That user can create new users. So, and that user can assign roles to any user, assign roles. Now we are talking about application implementation consultant, IT security manager roles. In the same way, the user who got access to IT security manager, that user can create the new users. Which user need access to which role that can be assigned. Say for example, you assigned IT security manager role to FinIMPL user. Now this FinIMPL user can create one user for payables application, and to work on the payables application, what are the roles that user required, those roles can be assigned. Okay. So even this IT security manager will allow the users to create the custom roles. If I have access to IT security manager, what I can do is I can create the new user. What are the roles Oracle is providing as a seeded roles? Those roles I can assign to that new users. If at all I want to create the new roles, yes, I can create. I will have a full privileges because IT security manager, it's similar to administration, security related administration. You can create the users, you can activate or deactivate the users, or if you want to delete, you can delete the users. Which user need access to which application? One user need access to payables, another user need access to receivables, another user need access to fixed assets. Yes, that you can set up if you have access to IT security manager. So Oracle is providing the roles. Those roles we are calling as seeded roles. As per your business requirement, you need new role. New role we call it custom role. Yes, you can create the custom role if you have access to IT security manager role. With the help of IT security manager role, you'll be able to create the new roles. Those we call as custom roles. So this is what we have to understand. Being an implementation consultant, we need access to FSM and we need access to security console. How to get access to FSM? With the help of application implementation consultant. Why we need access to FSM? To do the setup. And another area is security console. As an implementation consultant, we need access to security console. How to get access to security console? With the help of IT security manager. If you assign IT security manager role to any user, that user will get access to security console. What we can do with the help of security console, we can create the new users and we can assign the required roles, that what is the role of that user in the organization, what is the responsibility of that user in the organization. Accordingly, we can assign the roles, and if required, we can create the custom roles, or else what are the roles Oracle is providing, those roles you can assign to the required user. The what roles Oracle is providing, those we call as seeded roles. Whatever the roles we create, those we can call as custom roles. We'll see how to create the custom roles also going forward. Now just make a note. Custom roles means the roles which we create as a new roles. What roles Oracle is providing, those all are seeded. We will come across both. But now the point what we have to understand is, if you are going to work as a consultant, create one user and assign these two roles, then you will have a full privileges to work as a consultant within the system environment. So any questions here, please? Okay, no questions. Now we'll go and create the user within the instance. Okay, we'll go and create the user within the instance. Okay, now we'll go and create the user called as FinIMPL, or any name you can take. We'll see how to create the user. So here is the instance. Okay, this is a cloud instance. So cloud instance, here you can see SaaS. Okay, the name itself you can see it's a SaaS environment. In some instances, they don't give you as a SaaS or PaaS. You have to talk to the client, you can understand. Okay, fine. Now, so you will get access to this instance and you will provide the login credentials. You also follow the same process. Log into the instance with the available credentials and you follow the process what we are going to do now to create your own user. Now I'm going to use the user called as something like Fusion U3. This is a username which is already created in this instance, and provide the password. So this environment you can access from any device, no add-ons. You don't need to install anything. You can just connect to this instance from your smartphone if it is enabled with internet. Okay, from any device you can access this instance. Click on sign in. So what is our target? We want to create the user. We want to create the user. That is our target. So this is the home page. Once you log in, we'll come to know whatever you are able to see here, but not now, later. Now our target is user creation. How to create the user? Once you get access to instance, log into the instance with the same user. Now target is creating our own user. To create our own user, click on this bar icon, which we call as navigator. This is a logo. You can upload the client logo also here. This logo is given as a vision. Okay, this is the logo. You can change this logo also. So click on this bars icon. If you place the cursor, you can see the pop-up as a navigator. Okay, it will allow us to navigate to relevant pages. Now just click on that navigator icon. It will open one panel. Within the panel, go to tools. Here we have a tools. Expand these tools. Click on tools. The tools section will be expanded. Under tools, you can see multiple tasks. These are all we call as a tasks. These are all we call as a tasks. From where we can create the user as per our discussion. If you want to create a user, what access we need?
Security console.
Yes, we need security console, right? How do you get security console access?
Assigning the IT security manager.
Yes, with the help of IT security manager. Now go to this instance. Under tools, we are able to see security console. It means to the current user, Fusion U3 user, IT security manager role is assigned. Otherwise, you don't see the security console here. You are able to see security console because of IT security manager role only. Now, okay, I'll just repeat. Once you log into the instance, click on navigator icon and expand tools. Under tools, we have a multiple task. These all are tasks, T-A-S-K, task. These all we call as a task. Within the Fusion, whatever you perform, we call as a task. Okay. So under tools, one of the task name is security console. Just click on security console task. Click on it. Take all the points. Hope you are making note that you can use for your practice to read and memorize. Done. Ignore that message. I'm not reading, I'm not touching that message. Okay, you'll come to know why that message is coming later. Now, what we want to do, we want to create the user. So here is the users. Okay, select users. Select users. Okay, select users. Now from this page, you can create the user. To create the new user, click on add user account. Click on add user account. And the user what we are creating, this user we call as implementation user, not employee user. Okay, we are going to create which user? Implementation user. So create implementation user. Create implementation user. The username we want to create as a fin.impl. Fin.impl. So implementation user. We are not creating employee user. We cannot create employee user now. With the help of implementation user, we have to complete certain setups. Then only system will allow you to create the employee user. So first we have to create implementation user, from where you can create implementation user from security console. Okay, what is the name we want to give? Provide that name, first name, last name, email, multiple fields we have. You can follow the mandatory fields. First name you can ignore. We can give the last name. I'll give the last name as, I'll give like fin.impl, or else you can give the person name. Okay, here based on the role you are working for, which area, accordingly we create users generally. Okay, fin.impl, use tab, the same name. Okay, system will copy into username. The last name it is taking as a username. So if you want to proceed with the same username, okay, or else you can change it. Yes, we want username as a fin.impl. Now here you have to set the password. Set password and confirm the password. When we talk about password, we have a password policy. Place the cursor on that I. I means information. So here is a simple policy. Okay, at least 8 characters, 1 number. Okay, this is a password policy for this user creation. You can change this password policy also. We'll see that later. First, we'll see how to create. So I'm not going to set the password. I'll set password later. Okay, so I created a user, or else first we'll create user only, later we'll create the roles, assign the roles. So set the password. Set any password. Now we given the last name, we given the username, same last name system is copying as username. If you want to override, you can change it and set password and confirm the password. So now what we have to do, we have to assign those 2 roles to this user. Here is the tab called as add role. By using add role, you can assign the roles to this user. We will do it later. So now click on save and close. Our user would be ready. Save and close. Now our user doesn't have access to anything, right? With this user, you cannot do anything. So just empty user we created. Now we'll find our user here. The user name is fin.impl. Search. Okay, display name is fin.impl, username is same. We didn't provide any email ID. Our user record is active, status is active, user record is not locked. And here you have a different actions which you can perform against this record. Click on actions drop down. If you want to log this account, you can log. If you log, this user cannot log into the instance. Or else you can reset the password for this user. You can just click on reset password. enable manually change the password, and here you can change the password if you want to change. We can set password expiry policy also. We'll see those going forward. We'll see those. If you want to manually change, this is how you can change the password. Say reset password. And other actions, you can delete the user also. Say you created this user created few transactions also. Now still system will allow you to delete, but reality system is not going to delete this user permanently. This user will be deleted from this page, but in the database this user will remain as it is, and this user is performed which activities in the system, that history also will be maintained. Okay, it's a temporary deletion. Only from this page this user will be deleted. Once you delete the user, you cannot see this user from this page, but that would be there in the database with the status as a deleted, and you will be able to see this user information with the records which you created from this user. Okay, the history can be maintained. Only the user will be deleted from this page, not permanently from the system. And compare users. Okay, you can compare one user with another user, that will come to know later. And copy user, this user you can copy as another user also, those also will see later. Now those are not applicable, you cannot test those. So this is how we have to create. Now click on display name or username. Any roles assigned? No roles. No roles are assigned to this user. Okay. Now, if you want to assign any roles to this user, just click on username and click on edit. So I want to assign the roles to this user. Click on username, click on edit. Now you can see the tab called as add roles. By using the add roles, you can assign the roles. It's nothing but add role is nothing but assign roles. So which roles we have to assign? These two roles. Okay. So application implementation consultant and IT security manager. We'll go and assign one by one. So click on add role. The role name is application implementation consultant. Don't type the entire role name at a time. Just type application. Okay, just type application implementation. Don't type consultant. Application implementation. Now see, multiple roles are there, which starts with application implementation. We have application implementation administrator. The same role is available with the two copies. Another role is application implementation consultant. Two or multiple copies are available. And application implementation manager. Which role is powerful role? Consultant role. If you assign application implementation consultant, application implementation administrator, you will get access to limited privileges. Even if you assign application implementation manager, you will have access to limited privileges. Only application implementation consultant role will have a full privileges to the system to perform any setups. So you no need to assign application implementation administrator and manager. Just assign application implementation consultant role. If you want to assign administrator and manager roles, you can assign. There is no harm, but not required. So assign application implementation consultant role, you will have a full privileges, you will be able to perform any activities. So now filter as a consultant. Application implementation consultant. So here is the role, application implementation consultant. This is the role name. Under that role, whatever you see, that we call as a role code. Is starting with ORA ASM application implementation consultant job. Okay, so this is the role name and this is the role code. If you look at these two roles names are same: application implementation consultant, application implementation consultant. What is the difference between these two roles? This role is starting with ORA ASM, this role is starting with ASM application. So two roles. When you find the two roles, always prefer to choose only ORA role. Prefer to choose. In some instances, you see two roles with the same name. Some instances, you see only one role. Ideally, when you are working in the client instance, you see the first one only. Second one, you don't see. Okay. This instance we are using for our practice purpose. That is the reason this second role also available. Otherwise, in the client instance, you see only first role. Some instances, if you see two, anyone you can choose, but always you prefer to choose which is starting with ORA. Why you have to choose which is starting with ORA? When we deal with the custom roles, we will discuss. For now, always you prefer to choose which role code is starting with ORA. Those are very much seeded roles. Okay, if which is not starting with ORA, that can be any role. We'll come to know the classification of roles. Okay, now, what role we have to select? Application implementation consultant. Consultant, where role code is starting with ORA. That's it. Now select it. Okay, select this role. The same role name you can see here, application implementation consultant. It is starting with ORA. With the same name, somebody copied. The same role somebody copied. The suffix is they given as a copy. Even we can copy the roles. We'll see going forward. Now, it's not a time like we have to understand many points. Then we will look into how to create the new roles, how to copy, how to duplicate, etc. etc. Fine. Application implementation consultant is the role name. Make sure code is ORA. Now select the same role. Just select the record. Click on add role membership. Add role membership is nothing but assign role. First find the role, then select the role and click on add role membership. The background you can notice role is assigned. See, application implementation consultant role is assigned. Now we have to assign one more role called as IT security manager. Assign IT security manager role. IT security manager. Here is IT security manager role. So here also we have two copies. Two copies. Since it's a test environment, we have a two copies. If it is a client instance, you will find the first one on the second one you don't see. Okay. So IT security manager. So which one we have to choose? Which is starting with ORA? Okay, you have only one role. It is not starting with ORA. No issue. Select it. If you have two, you have to choose which is starting with ORA. If you have only one, choose whatever available. So role name is IT security manager. Role code is starting with ORA. Select. This role also somebody copied and they clearly mentioned do not use. That means there is some changes. Those all we will do later. So role name is IT security manager and select the same role. Click on add role membership. Add role membership. Now click on done. So we created a user, we assigned the two roles. One is application implementation consultant, another role is IT security manager. Here you can see role codes also, both are starting with ORA. And what is the purpose of application implementation consultant? It will give access to FSM, function setup manager. From there we can do the setup. If we assign IT security manager role to user, it will allow us to access to security console. From security console, we will be able to create the users. We can assign the roles if required. We can create the custom roles also. So we assign. Now click on save and close. So we created a user. We assign two required roles to start working as a consultant. Which consultant? Any consultant. See, now we created a user as a fin.impl. You may create a user for SCM, supply chain management. You may create a user for HCM, human capital management. You may create a user for PPM. Same roles are required. These are not specialized for finance. These are specialized for any consultant. So this is the point you have to understand. Now click on done. So we are ready with our user.
These two are like seeded roles only.
Seeded roles, yes. These roles are, we never created, right? We never created. These two roles we call as seeded roles. These are provided by Oracle. Okay, we'll see how to create the new roles, which we call as custom. These two roles are seeded roles. Any questions here, please?
Hi, Lakshman. Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Don't we have option to assign the end date for the roles?
No. We don't have any option to give the end date. If you want to delete any point of time, you can delete the role. In EBS, you can give the end date. In EBS equal to this, we have a responsibility. Okay. There you can end date. But the roles what we are assigned to the user, you cannot end date. Only the option is go to that user, click on edit, and here you have option to remove, delete. Or else click on remove all the rows. All the rows will be removed. No end date option. For user also same. User also you cannot give any end date and all. If you want to delete, you can delete the user. Any other
So,
questions
sir,
here, please?
in the actions we have this compare. So what is it
You will
used for?
understand later. Now we cannot. There should be a one more user to compare. We'll come to know. Yeah, why we have to compare, what we compare. Still, we have to see few other data.
Okay.
Compare, copy. We will come to know later.
Yeah, sure.
Any other questions here, please?
If we will start working, the user ID will be same. Will it be any problem, or in IMP we will also put?
No, it's username should be unique. You cannot. You create your own user. Okay. Take any company name and create user. Like Geo, Airtel, anything you can take.
And the second part is security console. When we create new user and assign roles, then the end user can start working on API or GL, I think, right?
No. Now what we given here, this user can do the setups. This user can do these activities. So there is one user who is working for payables. For payables, to allow the user to work on the payables, we have a separate roles. Okay. For payables, receivables, we have separate roles. These roles who required, consultant required. End users. There is one user who is working for payables. Okay, user name is ABC. The ABC user is working for payables. To work on the payables, we have a separate roles. For example, you will assign the role called as accounts payable, or I'll say like manager, or say so any role you can take. Accounts payable manager role. This role will allow the user to create the transactions, or else you can assign the role called as accounts payable supervisor, accounts payable specialist, or else you can create the custom role. So what exactly you want to allow the user, those you can assign to that user. We have a separate roles. You want to allow the user to work on the receivables, we have a receivables roles. You want to allow the user to work on the GL, we have a GL roles. So these are different roles. Okay, now we are talking about which roles are required by consultant. Okay, once we perform the required setups, then we will talk about those application specific roles. These are the common roles which are required by consultants to do the setups, any setup, and from this user you cannot do any transactions. You cannot record any transaction because this user doesn't have access to transaction creation privileges. If you want to assign, you can assign. How to assign, we will understand. Yep. This is purely configuration purpose. Okay, no transactions can be recorded from this user with the help of these two roles.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions here, please?
As you said, these are all seeded roles, right?
Correct.
And if we want to add some more roles, like application implementation consultant and IT security, and we want some other roles.
Add it. Yes, you
Right.
can add it.
Okay.
But when you are adding, why you are adding? What purpose?
Okay.
Accordingly, you can add. We'll be adding many roles going forward. Now, just we're trying to understand as an implementation user which roles we require. That is the point. Fine. If no questions, again, we'll go back and check what this fin and .impl user will be able to do in the system. We'll cross check whether this fin impl is able to access to FSM. This fin impl user is able to access to IT security manager, nothing but security console or not. Any questions, please? If no questions, we'll see the system.
Lakshman, sorry. Real time the business question, because I see there is no end date over here. So is there any track or trigger, say,
What you are
usually
talking about end date?
for the roles?
Okay, roles end date is not there. Yeah, tell me.
So usually for any development or any further things, we assign 3 days, 4 days, as per the SOX complaints, right? So here there is no end date. Then is there any way or to trigger that person after 5 days that we can
No,
remove?
no. We don't have any option. You can just run some user and user related report. From there, you can identify and you can do that. So just here, Oracle given option like you can create. So if you want to remove, you can remove it. Otherwise, you can inactivate the user itself.
Hmm.
Okay, we don't have any option to manage with the dates.
Yeah.
If you want to delete the role, delete it. Or else inactivate. If you want to inactivate the user, inactivate the user. Even roles are assigned, no use. These are only the two actions we have: user level and role level.
Can we have for user level disable, end date?
No, that is not there. Only you have to remove.
The username.
Username, yeah, inactivate. That's what we have seen, right?
Inactivate date. Okay.
Inactivate means you are inactivating user. Once inactivated, user cannot log into the instance.
The date is available in the user creation?
No, date is not available. You can set expiry date for the user, password expiry only. See here. So, see, user is active, locked. When this password is going to be expired for this user, this is the date. You can set the password policies. There you can understand. Directly you cannot set it. Okay. So if user is active, user can log into the instance. User account is locked, user cannot log in. And if you click on edit, you can see. So for this user, you want to remove the role called as IT security manager, you can remove. You cannot say like inactivate this role for this user. No, that is not. Yep. So these are the possibilities. Any other questions here, please? No questions. Now we'll log into the instance as a FinIMPL user and we will cross check because of these two rows. Are we able to access to FSM and security console? We'll check. So go back to the instance, sign out. Confirm the sign out. Now username is FinIMPL, fin.impl, and enter the password. Sign in. Now, first we'll check this user, fin.impl user, is able to access to FSM or not. So user is fin.impl. How to check whether this user is able to access to FSM or not? Click on username. Okay, click on username. It will open one panel. Within the panel, you can see multiple tasks. One of the task name is setup and maintenance. Here is the setup and maintenance task. So if you are able to see setup and maintenance task here, that means you have access to FSM. You can understand IT security application implementation consultant role is assigned to this user. If you don't assign application implementation consultant role to this user, within this panel, you don't see setup and maintenance task. If you click on setup and maintenance task, it will take us to FSM homepage, functional setup manager homepage From there, you can do any application related setups. Any application related setups. So once you log into the user, you click on username. The panel is open. Now here is one of the tasks called as setup and maintenance. When you see this task, you can understand this user got access to FSM. This is FSM related task only. If you don't assign application implementation consultant role, you don't see setup here. Okay, we have another user, right? Another user, you don't see this. So just go back to that user, or else not required. Let's leave it. So just click on setup and maintenance. Now it will take us to FSM page. Click on setup and maintenance task. Now we are in the FSM page. This page we call as FSM, Function Setup Manager page. Here you can do any application related setup. Say for example, you want to do finance related setups. If you want to do finance related setups, here you can select financials. Okay, here we have a setup, and there from the drop down, you select financials. Select financials. Now you want to do general ledger related setups, select general ledger. Okay, select general ledger. So these are the setups you have to do for general ledger. You want to do the setups for payables, select payables, payable setups. You want to do setups for cash management, select cash management setups. You want to do expense application setups, select expense, you can do the expense setups. So this is how you can select specific like product family, and within that you can select specific application and you can do the relevant setups. So this is how you can do the setups. We got access to FSM. From FSM, you can do the setups. And any setups, like you want to do the procurement related setups, you select procurement. Okay. So this is how you can select and you can do the setup. This we call as FSM homepage, Function Setup Manager homepage. From here, you can do any application related setups. How to do setups, we'll see later. Just we are here to understand this is FSM. That's all. Okay, we are clear about this user. FinIMPL user is able to access to FSM. From here, any application related setups you can do. Now, we'll verify the user is able to access to security console or not. Go to navigator. Okay, click on navigator, scroll little down, go to tools. Under tools, if you are able to see security console, it means this user got access to IT security manager. Under tools, we are able to see security console. That means this user got access to IT security manager role. Now click on the same task. Click on the same task, security console. Click on the same task. It will take us to security console page. Now click on users. From here, you can create the user account, or else the existing user you can find. Fin.impl. Click on search. Thus we are able to see our current user. And if you want to create the new users, you have an option. Click on add user account. We know how to create user. Provide last name, username, password, confirm the password. Click on add role, assign the roles. Which roles you want to assign to the new user? Assign. So we are able to access to security console as well as FSM from our new user. As of now, what are the roles we assign? Application implementation consultant, IT security manager. These two roles will help us to perform the setups and to manage the security. So this user cannot create any transaction. Transaction creation purpose, we have a separate roles. Those we will discuss going forward. So this is all about user creation and the roles which need to be assigned and what is the purpose of these two roles. So any questions from anyone, please?
Yeah, Lakshman, good morning.
Yeah.
Sakti this side. So like just you saw the last screen where you saw the security console and you are trying to create a user.
Yes.
But in the beginning, how you are able to create the implementation user, then finance implementation
Okay.
user?
What is the
Yeah.
user I used?
Uh, Fin.impl, right?
No. I used Fusion U3
Okay.
with this. From this user, I created a user called as pin.impl, right?
Yeah.
It means this user got access to which role?
That's the seeded role from Oracle, right?
Which role? IT security manager role.
Okay, okay. So
So
that was earlier there actually for you when you log in, right? After that, you were able to create the Fin
correct.
implementation role.
I
Okay.
connected to the instance with this user. From this user, I navigated to security console and I created this user.
Okay, okay. Got it, got it.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
I am able to create a user from this user because this user got access to
Security console.
yes, IT security manager role that allows you to create the users from the security console. That's it.
Okay, okay. Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So any questions here, please?
Yeah, client will have access to IT security manager on person setups.
When we are doing the implementation, ideally client won't connect to the instance. Once implementation is done from client side, somebody will take care of the administration of these users and user securities. That time they will. But during the implementation, so client doesn't know about the Fusion applications, right? Say from client side, somebody is there who knows Fusion applications, who is going to help to the client from their end also. In that case, yes, they can create separate user and they can assign. Typically not. Okay, being implementation consultant, we create users and will have access to application implementation consultant, IT security manager. So you client is not going to connect to the instance. Just client is going to listen to us what we say, what we give
Means,
the directions,
means
what suggestions we give.
after implementation they will have it.
Yes, once implementation done, they are going to use the system. They need full control.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Correct. Any other questions here, please?
By using this as IT security manager, we are creating new users.
Correct.
New users means employees of the company where they will work.
Anything. I'm not specifying only consultant users or only employee users. Any users you can create, but initial stage you cannot create employee user. To create employee user, we have to complete few setups. Then only system will allow you to create the employee user. From this user, you can create employee users also, but you have to complete few additional setups.
Okay.
Any user you can create.
Some tasks are in left side in the navigator and some tasks are in right side, right? So how in future how we know what are in left side and what are in
You
right
will come to know. Will come to know. See here, whatever you see in the navigator, this is mostly for the purpose of recording the transactions, other than the security console. So
Okay.
mostly we use from the navigator only. Here, what you can see hardly FSM related access. That's all. Remaining, you don't generally use those.
Okay.
Okay. So mostly you'll be working on the navigator part if you are an employee user. If you are a consultant, always you'll be clicking on user, you'll be going always to setup and maintenance to do the setups. That's it.
Thank you.
Yep, fine. So any other questions here, please? Okay. So if no questions, what we'll do is, okay, we'll make a plan. Tomorrow session, we'll focus on FSM. Okay, in the FSM, we'll do different setups. So we will have to arrange something so that we can start working on the configuration part, setup part. Okay. So we are stopping here for today. Since these are very initial classes, I'm limiting the time to 1 hour. So going forward, maybe after 1 or 2 classes, we'll spend whatever we schedule, like 1 hour, 30 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to stop here for today. If you have any questions, please stay back. We will discuss. Yep.